Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. Welcome to my new setup. Welcome to a new look that I'm trying. Folks, thank you so much for being a viewer. Thank you so much for being a subscriber. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. If you don't know anything about me, this right here is a little bit of information about me. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. This channel, the Ignition Time channel, is about the country, it's about the economy, and it's about your money. Well, it looks, folks, like we have trouble in paradise. Here's what I mean. The director of the White House Economic Council, Brian Deese, actually met with 16 lawmakers over the weekend. He met with both Democrats as well as Republicans, 16 senators, and he already got some pushback. Before I give you all the details of all the pushback that the director of the White House Economic Council, Brian Deese, got, there he is. Hello, Brian. So, by the way, you remember the old director of the White House Economic Council, Uncle Kudlow? There he is. Hello, Mr. Larry Kudlow. He's gone now. Like I said, I don't know where he is now. He's probably off sipping whiskey somewhere, propping his feet up on a leather chair, looking at, staring at a 100-inch TV. I don't even know if you have a 100-inch TV. I'm not a big TV guy. But Brian Deese, the director of the White House Economic Council, spoke with the lawmakers. And let's quickly recap who these lawmakers are, who these important bipartisan group of lawmakers are. This group consists of both Republican as well as Democratic lawmakers. So the Republican lawmakers include Todd Young from Indiana, Jerry Moran from Kansas, Shelley Moore Capito from West Virginia, Susan Collins from Maine, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Mitt Romney from Utah, Rob Portman from Ohio, who just announced that he's not going to be running for re-election. So that's some pretty interesting calculations there about who's going to be running for his Senate seat. Bill Cassidy from Louisiana. These are the Republicans. Now let's take a look at the Democrats. Joe Manchin, I call him the conservative Democrat. So we have Joe Manchin from West Virginia, Mark Warner from Virginia, Dick Durbin from Illinois, Jeanne Shaheen from New Hampshire, Angus King from Maine, Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire, John Hickenlooper from Colorado, and Mark Kelly from Arizona. So here's the interesting thing. At the meeting with the director of the White House Economic Council, the lawmakers basically told Brian Deese that they didn't think that money should be going to those who didn't need it. In other words, they want the money to be more targeted. Basically, the lawmakers told Brian Deese, the director of the White House Economic Council, that this proposal, the $1.9 trillion proposal, provides too much money to wealthy Americans, in other words, individuals who don't need it. According to this proposal, if a family is, making $70,000 a year per person, that family would still end up getting several $1,000s if they have dependents. So basically, they said that nope, this plan is providing too much money to wealthy Americans and it should go to those who need it the most. Now, the good news is, according to Politico, the discussion was, I quote, civil, and there was general consensus that there was more money that was needed for vaccine distribution, because we know that many individuals are in dire straits. The vaccine distribution is a very important part of the economic recovery for our country. Now, this was a 75-minute call that was actually set up by who I call the conservative Democrat, Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin, there he is. Hello, Senator Manchin from West Virginia. So this 75-minute call was set up by Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, and it was one of the first major discussions between the administration and between several lawmakers, both Republicans and Democrats. Now, it's very clear that the Biden administration is a lot more hands-on, and they're trying to pursue this very aggressively instead of waiting till the last minute and changing things and pulling back and changing demands at the last minute. So this does seem encouraging. Now, according to sources on the call, Senator Susan Collins from Maine, the Republican from Maine, asked why families making $300,000 would be eligible, and said that there should be a greater focus on low-income workers. Now, keep in mind that the way things are structured right now is that if a family makes up to $300,000, they would still get the stimulus check. So we know that individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality have been impacted the most. We know individuals who are low income, individuals who are dependent on unemployment have been impacted the most. So basically, the focus here is to try and make the aid significantly more targeted. This is what Senator Susan Collins said. I was the first to raise that issue, but there seems to be a lot of agreement that those payments need to be more targeted. I would say it is not clear to me how the administration came up with its $1.9 trillion figure for the package. She said the top line number was a concern for her, meaning the $1.9 trillion. And the bipartisan crew, which is led by Susan Collins on one side, the Republican from Maine, and Joe Manchin the other side, I call him the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, they are going to be reconvening to try and figure out what the next step is. And they said that the proposal in its current form is simply not going to pass in the Senate. Now, keep in mind that the bipartisan group was the key to passing the $900 billion stimulus package that we all know about, that I covered extensively. And many Republicans are saying that a larger package will be difficult to pass because they want it to be significantly more targeted. Now, that package included $600 checks, but this package is going to include more money, an additional $1,400. And here's another comment from Senator Susan Collins from Maine. She said, I'm going to suggest that we get together and talk about what we think would be a reasonable package and one that would garner bipartisan support. The administration clearly is very eager to move very quickly, and we want to make sure that there is justification, especially since there's so much money remaining from the previous packages. Folks, even Angus King, who typically sides with the Democrats, keep in mind he's an independent from Maine, he questioned the price tag, and Angus King said, and I quote, "This isn't monopoly money." And Angus King said, and I'm quoting him, "There's a fundamental decision here on the part of the administration, and that is, do they want to work on the negotiation for a bipartisan proposal, or do they want to try and move the larger package through reconciliation?" Which, by the way, is what Chuck Schumer has alluded to, what Bernie Sanders has alluded to. He said that did not come up today explicitly, but that's sort of in the background. Now, here's something interesting. Jean Shaheen, who's a Democrat from New Hampshire, who's one of the group of 16 senators, she did praise the White House for setting up this discussion so quickly, and she said this was a departure from the previous administration. She said that senators requested more data on the status of state and local governments, because keep in mind, some states are doing better, some states are doing badly. And she said that that would give them a better sense of the administration's priorities and how they crafted the plan. And this is a comment from Jean Shaheen. She said that was a general issue that was expressed around a number of things. The more targeted the assistance can be where it's needed most, the more helpful. It does make sense to have a significantly more targeted stimulus, because I've always said this on my channel, money should go to those who need it the most. But then the question is, number one, what will be the parameters for this targeting? Is it going to be income level? Is it going to be those, let's say, below those who make less than $40,000 a year? Could it potentially be location, depending on where you're staying? Although I believe that will cause more problems than it will solve. Could it be the duration of unemployment? Have you been unemployed for a long duration of time? Could it be other factors such as your industry? You know that I've talked about individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality who are going to be impacted the most. But each of these parameters poses its own set of challenges. Let's say if somebody below $40,000 starts to get the stimulus, anybody who made above $40,000 based on 2019 income. If then that poses the question, hey, what happens if I made $40,500? Why should I be left out? If you're in a certain state, you don't want to be left out just because you were in a state, let's say like New Hampshire versus a state like California. That would pose a new set of problems. Also, another problem could be potentially the extent of unemployment, how long you've been unemployed, the industries you work in. So the parameters that are used to decide the targeting are going to be very important. And then the senators, both the Republicans and the Democrats, have to be on board with it. Otherwise, the Democrats will try and ram the whole thing through reconciliation. Now, keep in mind, President Biden, there he is. Hello, President Biden is pushing for this. Here's a quote from President Biden. We're in a national emergency. It's time we treat it like one. This is a wartime undertaking. Pretty incredible, everyone. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. You'll get a link to our resources in the description section below.